There's something about the town of Gettysburg that just has this gravitational pull. In 1863, here you have this little town with 10 roads going into it, and it draws in the Army of Northern Virginia, and it draws in the Army of the Potomac. And here, over 16 decades later, the town of Gettysburg still has that gravitational pull and is still drawing people to itself.
I'm Charlie. My channel is History with Waffles. Waffles is a nickname I picked up when I was in the Navy. So I spent 22 years in the Navy and retired as a Chief Petty Officer. Started doing the same thing that these guys are doing, going to the place, taking you there, and essentially telling you a story of the common soldier on the ground. Primarily Civil War, but we do a lot of Revolutionary War as well.
Okay, great. I thought you were going to say history and flapjacks. In small mountains. Thank you.
Flapjacks in small mountains. Love it.
There's something special about this place. There is something about this battle. I've talked to people who have lived in Gettysburg their entire lives, and they are still learning new things. And Gettysburg, I've referred to it being like the gateway drug of the Civil War. That the more you study Gettysburg and the more you study the actions there, the better you're able to understand the Civil War at large. So for me personally, learning more about Gettysburg has helped me to learn more about Vicksburg. It's helped me to learn more about Manassas and Wilson's Creek and Shiloh and Chickamauga and all of the people who were involved in it. So Gettysburg is a really, really special place for those reasons. Another reason that Gettysburg is special to me is because I have made so many friends and I've met so many people just through my association with this town. I've become the co-owner of a museum, the Gettysburg Museum of History there. So in addition to getting value from the history that Gettysburg provides, man, it has connected me to people who are now some of my closest friends.
This is obviously a very special place for you.
It is.
We know about it because you talk about it a lot on your channel.
Yeah.
Addressing Gettysburg. Why is it special to you? And then let's position that against why do you think it's so special for many other people coming out here?
Well, for me, it's special because I can't figure out why it's special. Why I'm drawn here, why from the moment I first came here on a field trip when I was 17 years old, I didn't want to leave. And when I went back home, I went to my dad and I was like, we have to go back there for a weekend. And that was in May, July we came out. And we had to stay in Greencastle because we didn't realize what a big deal it was. I don't know why we didn't realize this, but what a big deal it was during the anniversary. We were like, oh, let's go for 4th of July weekend. but it was such a big deal that the closest hotel we could find was 45 minutes away in Greencastle.
Oh yeah.
And for years it took us a while to learn the lesson. You gotta make your reservation 11 months in advance.
Yeah.
And then you could stay in town. So eventually we got that right and would stay in town. And I never wanted to leave. I felt like I was home. And I'm not exaggerating when I say that all year I never felt comfortable back at my actual home.
Yeah.
And for 3 or 4 days when we would come here, I felt like I could be me, and I felt like I was at my place.
Yeah.
And it took probably almost another 10 years before I moved here. And then I moved away because I got frustrated with it. It's because I was young. I was in my 20s, and you don't understand how life works in your 20s.
Yeah.
You think you do.
You do. Yeah.
You think you know more than everybody that's lived it longer, but you don't.
Right.
And so I moved back to New Jersey and stayed there another 8 years until I finally realized, like, this place, every time I visited here to see friends, I felt like I was visiting home.
Yeah.
And when I lived here, and to this day, every time I visit home, I feel like I'm in a foreign land. And
Yeah.
I'm uncomfortable, and I want to get back here as soon as I can.
Yeah.
And so, but why? And I only say this because this has been a burning question since I started addressing Gettysburg. We did 2 shows called Why Gettysburg way back when, because I couldn't figure it out. And I figured if I can't figure it out, and I've talked to other people who also say they can't figure out, they just have to come here. They have to be here. So I posed it to our listeners, record a little sample, tell me why Gettysburg?
Yeah.
Whatever that means to you.
Yeah.
And some people would say, well, the 10 roads converged on the town, and that's their why Gettysburg, right? Like,
right.
They took why to mean, why did the battle happen?
Right.
But most people took it as, why is it special to me? And they all had varied answers, but a lot of them, at the core of it is, I don't know.
Yeah.
And that's why I keep going. I want to see, maybe this time I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And I always say, I'll figure it out one day and die in my sleep that night and never be able to tell anybody, because it's not for anybody else to know. It's between me and whatever the hell it is. So that's my big thing. I will figure it out one day, but nobody around me will know that.
We'll know it. Yeah.
Because I'll be dead.
Excellent.
Now, I'm not as detailed in my storytelling as Mike is. Mike has the steel trap for a brain. I have a steel colander for a brain, which is why I interview people, and I don't present history on my show. So we're going to go there, and I'm going to tell you the essence of the story and why it moves me. And there's so many stories. I mean, you wanted me to pick my favorite spot.
Yeah.
I have many favorite spots for many different reasons. Watch out for the cannon. I don't want you to get...
It's all good.
You all right?
Yeah, I got the peripheral going.
Literally about to... Okay, good. I have many favorite spots for many different reasons, like sunsets, for example. The angle here, this is a great spot. Little round top.
Right.
Fantastic spot. Spots on the first day. Benner's Hill, a lot of people don't know about Benner's Hill. That's another great spot. We're going to go this way here. Tons of great spots for sunsets. But as far as stories go, every foot of ground, for the most part, in Gettysburg National Military Park has moving stories, great stories. But most of all, and this is kind of where we're starting to head with our show, horrifying stories.
Yeah.
I think things like the movie Gettysburg, even to an extent Ken Burns' Civil War, they romanticize the war, and they may tell you with words how horrible things are, but human beings need to see it to believe it.
Right.
And we don't see it enough, and we don't hone in on it. All right, so Brown's Battery, Battery B, 1st Rhode Island Light Artillery. There's a great book called Our Story by our friend Stephen Evangelista. Stephen is a reenactor with Brown's Battery, and he decided to write this book, and every chapter is a biography of the men in the battery, and it's really good because we get to know the men, and in a lot of histories we don't really get to know the men, maybe some of them, but in this case, the Battery B they had a good historian who was actually the son of one of the guys that we're about to talk about. I believe it was Gardner, right, Mike? Gardner's son was the historian? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So there's a cannon up in Rhode Island known as the Gettysburg gun. And the Gettysburg gun has a round stuck in the muzzle, and that is because a Confederate shell during the cannonade on July 3rd exploded, dented the muzzle as these guys were trying to load. It also blew the top of the head off of one named William Jones, and one of the gunners, and the other one had his arm ripped out at the shoulder. Jones obviously, and it threw him several feet. He obviously died immediately, but Gardner, who had his arm ripped off, he kind of makes his way over to the wheel and leans himself up against the wheel. And his sergeant, who is also his tent mate, Sergeant Strait, comes over. And believe it or not, and this is one of these things, this is the horror of it, Gardner is able, he's conscious, and he's able to speak still for a little bit. I believe Strait describes being able to see his lungs inflating. Okay, so he's really ripped apart.
Yeah.
And so Gardner says to him, "Tell my wife I died happy." And he yells out praise to God, and then dies. He also asked Strait to send his Bible to his wife, which has notes and stuff in the margin. And tell my wife I died happy. That sticks with me. Because Gardner was a man of faith, a very strong faith, and I don't know how you experience all the stuff that people experience in combat and still have your faith. And perhaps your faith is the only thing that gets you through. I don't know, but the fact that he's sitting there with his body mangled like that, knowing he's going to die. And his message is that I died happy and glory to God, or something to that effect. It is a part of the human condition that I really want to understand, but I don't quite understand. You know, I have a bad day, over some first world problem, and I'm like, God hates me. And this guy's sitting there, his arm is somewhere else, and he's like, I'm dying happy. Now, obviously, he's not happy about how he's dying, but he's happy in, I don't know what it is, God's love, or I don't know what his happiness comes from, but he had it. And so that was something that stuck with me. He and Jones were buried in the same grave together, wrapped in a red woolen blanket, and Gardner's brother, Strait wrote Gardner's wife and said, I buried him with another man. And the brother of Gardner came out to retrieve the body, and the way that they knew who was who was, they told him, the man who's not your brother is missing the top of his head.
Oh, wow.
And so they open the grave, they find the guy missing the arm, not the top of his head, and they put him away. Now, or take him away. Here's the other thing, and this is what I want everybody to understand. Jones's top of his head, you get hit with something, it doesn't just fall off to the side, it goes flying. So the top of his skull flew God knows how many feet away and rested somewhere, perhaps is still somewhere underground here. Gardner's arm, did I say Gardner before with the head? It's Jones. I don't know if I got that right. Did I say Jones?
Well, you said Jones with the head.
Yeah, okay, good. I got that right. All right. Gardner, his arm went flying somewhere else. How many fingers, arms, hands, heads, legs, parts of a pelvis are just strewn around a battlefield? You're not just looking, movies make it look like it's just broken gun limbers and carriages and whole bodies of very large reenactors laying out in the sun, right? But the reality of it is, it's pieces of bodies. You know, the Omaha beach scene in Private Ryan is probably not probably, it's closer to what they would have seen on a Civil War battlefield or any battlefield. And so I feel like, you know, while movies and things like that are good to get us interested in this stuff, we have to at some point separate ourselves from the romance of these movies and realize these are real men with real wives, real mothers, real fathers, brothers, sisters, children, who, when they're gone, that all those lives are forever affected and changed. And it's not something that we go, oh, that's cool. I'm really getting sick of hearing what your favorite battle is and what your favorite regiment is or favorite brigade, or that, you know, oh, Battle of Gettysburg's cooler than the Battle of Antietam. None of them are cool. They're wholesale murder, slaughter, and there's nothing cool about it. And I say this as a person who, when he was younger, thought it was cool. But it was, what I thought was cool was Hollywood's depiction of it.
Yeah.
But the reality of it is, it's disgusting.
Yeah.
And nobody would be able to handle it. The sights, the smells, the sounds of men screaming for their mothers. I go on YouTube and look up Deadwood, Doc Cochran praying.
Yeah.
Okay? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah, I know.
Okay. So Doc Cochran, this character in Deadwood, is a former Civil War Army surgeon, and he's a big drunk. And there's a character who's dying of a brain tumor, and he doesn't understand why God just won't take him. And so he gets a little drunk, and he gets down on his knees, and he starts saying to God, he goes, please take him. He goes, I don't understand what godly purpose you have to make this man suffer like this, you know. And then somehow that triggers the question that he had during the Civil War. What is your godly purpose to make these boys suffer? And I'm gonna get choked up because I've seen it a million times and I can't desensitize myself to it. He starts screaming, mommy, mommy, mama, where's my leg, mama? You know, just all this. And I don't know how people can it's suffering. That's all war is. And so this story here, Brown's Battery B, 1st Rhode Island Light Artillery, is one of thousands that remind me that this is not a cool scene in a movie.
Mr. Beat here of the channel Mr. Beat, and I make American history videos. I used to teach American history to middle schoolers and high schoolers, and I don't know why Waffles asked me to make this video because, frankly, and I'm embarrassed to say this, I have never been to Gettysburg, but what I can say is I can share with you what I've heard from my friends and family who have been there. They say it's a magical place, even though horrible things happened there. A lot of people died, obviously. It's still very serene to go there to reflect on the importance of that site. It's huge. That's one thing a lot of people tell me is like, you need to block off several days to visit this place. It's thousands of acres. And I think it's really cool how they've restored it to how it actually looked in 1863. That's really important to me whenever they're able to try to make it look as if it looked back then, because landscapes change pretty quickly. One other thing is that if you look beyond the battle itself, next to it is another historical site that fewer people know about, and that's the Eisenhower National Historic Site. That's where you can find the only home that Dwight Eisenhower, the president, ever owned. He retired there after he left the presidency. A lot of people don't know about that. So, and of course, me being really into presidential history, that's something I also would want to check out when I finally do visit. One of these days. One of these days.
Chris Mackowski of Emerging Civil War. Thanks, Charlie, for the invitation to comment today. My favorite spot on the battlefield is at the Visitor Center Museum in the display that shows the table on which Stonewall Jackson had his arm amputated following the Battle of Chancellorsville. Of course, Jackson's not at Gettysburg. He dies from a mortal wounding at Chancellorsville 2 months earlier. But so many people at Gettysburg want to bring him into the story. What if Stonewall Jackson was here? And to me, it's fascinating that so many people want to bring him into a story, even though to get him there is historically and logistically impossible. That's fascinating. Why Gettysburg? I think it's a landscape that is unlike nearly any other in America. You have all these monuments and markers and memorials and cannons, and each one tells a story and has dozens of stories attached to it. It's hard to cross that landscape and not look at all that and think like something really interesting happened here. And so there's just a lot there to appeal to the imagination. And then beneath that cultural landscape is a remarkable natural landscape that really kind of evokes the imagination. It's beautiful in its own right. I challenge you to hike up Big Round Top and not better understand the action, and hike across Pickett's Charge and not better understand the action. So the landscapes across Gettysburg really help to tell that story that is sort of mapped out by all of those markers.
So we've all got our reasons why we were drawn to this place, you and me. Why do you think Gettysburg is so special to other people?
Well, I mean, it's a haunting name. Right? You hear Gettysburg, even if you're not into history,
Yeah.
you know a little bit about Gettysburg. You know something happened. You're driving the Pennsylvania Turnpike and the billboard and it has a picture of a cannon.
Yeah.
You have that sense, and I think sometimes people I know who aren't Civil War people will say, like, we live here now, we're in Gettysburg.
Yeah.
Can we visit you? There's a lure to a place where people know history happened. For the rest of us, it's the epicenter of history.
Yeah.
But you feel it when you're in the town. You feel that this is a historic town. There's a lot of history here. And I think that's what enchants people when they come for the first time. And a lot of times they come back because of that. But there are still plenty. I was taught coming here was a rite of passage as a kid from Pennsylvania. There are people I know from Pittsburgh who have never been here. So it's still the doors are still open.
Yeah. So one of my favorite memories being here in Gettysburg was the very first time I came, which was 2013, actually. And I had my 2 daughters with me, and they were just little kids at the time. And we were going to the visitor center, and they had their little fake kepis on, and they're kind of sitting down on the sidewalk trying to take a break because it was hot outside. Do you have a story, maybe personal or battle related, that's your favorite?
Mine is, again, as a kid from Pennsylvania, you come here as a kid, and I loved history, but life gets in the way, family, career, job. It was actually the movie Gettysburg. It comes out in 1993. I went to see it at a theater in Pittsburgh on a Tuesday night by myself because there aren't many people who are going to go see a 4.5-hour movie on the Civil War.
Yeah.
I drove to Gettysburg 3 days later.
Okay.
I was driving down South Confederate Avenue, and I looked over the field of Pickett's charge, and it was like I heard the music in my head, and I've had the illness ever since. It was the movie Gettysburg that got me, even though I knew about it, I hadn't been here for so long, that got me to drive, and once I was here, I was hooked. And now that's 30 plus years, and now we have a home here. So
Yeah. So is that kind of what inspired you? Is that kind of what inspired you then to, go into writing books about?
Yeah, I that was never the plan. I just enjoyed it. I was thinking of being a battlefield guide. This is an escape.
Yeah.
I worked for the Pittsburgh Penguins hockey team, and as soon as the season ended, win or loss, my first weekend was here. That was the beginning of the off season. We'd come to Gettysburg. We'd come in for the anniversary days. I just loved it. And later in my career, I wrote a book on Flight 93, and I realized that I could do that type of writing. I said, I've got to write something on Gettysburg now.
Yeah.
So I did 2 of those, and it just became a hobby, and I enjoyed that part of it. And when you do that, you meet people as part of the community here, because I was an outsider before that, and you're kind of accepted in a little bit. So that's been fun, and they help you, and everybody kind of here helps each other. So that was how that happened.
Very cool. Everybody that comes here seems to have like a favorite spot of some sort, or a place they like to go to first or last day of the trip. What's your favorite spot?
Could tie for about 10 places, but I think I'd have to pick someone no one else would pick, and that's Benner's Hill,
Okay.
which almost no one would go to. And I picked that because that's where Colleen and I got married.
Oh.
In complete violation of Park Service rules. So don't put this on a video or anything. The park might come back and eliminate the marriage or something. We got married. So every time I drive past that place, that's a great memory. We have photos from there. Beyond that, though, I would say there's so many places, but the place that gets me the most is standing at the angle, the Union position of Pickett's charge, and just looking out and imagining what that would have looked like on July 3rd, 1863. And I sit there sometimes during the day or at night, whenever. What would that have looked like? We can only imagine in our minds, but I can't imagine what it would have been like to say. I wish there was a video you could see of something like that. But that's where I really get that feeling.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. That's one of my favorite places too, actually.
Well, this over to the left is Osmond Taylor's Virginia Battery. Henry Wentz was the first sergeant or orderly sergeant. So they are petitioned, as you can see, about 600 yards from the house where he grew up. Those 2 trees with no leaves on them, that's just across the Emmitsburg Road from where Henry grew up and where his family's house existed and where his father was in the house during the battle. Of course, on July 2nd, he didn't know his father was in there. But imagine the surreal nature of firing, not only in your hometown, but at the house where you grew up and across land right out here that you personally own. So that's all part of this really surreal, eerie story when you think of of all the soldiers who fought here, the one guy, Henry Wentz, who basically was attacking the property where he grew up.
How important do you think a story like this is to Gettysburg?
I think these are the kind of stories that you really need to tell. The personal stories are the ones that get the casual visitors. A lot of us nerds, we want to know where the 20th Maine was, and where the 83rd Pennsylvania was, where the 69th Pennsylvania was. But most people who come here just they like the personal stories, and I find this one to be most fascinating. And there's a mystery to it because Henry didn't write. We know he was here. We know some of the details of what happened. We don't know what's going through his head. So you kind of play that game in your mind. What would have been going through my head if I was in that situation? And my family is right across the way.
So why do we always come back to Gettysburg? What makes this place so powerful and special and important other than the battle to be able to tell these types of stories? There's so many people that come in and out of this town and they come back again and again. Why?
Hey, I was a frequent flyer for 30 years. I discovered it doing rehearsals for, Gettysburg, and I came back every couple of years. It's something about what happened here. If you go onto the battleground, you feel it. I feel it. I kept coming back, and I, got a lot of friends, and then now I live here part-time. It's just something, it's hard to explain. And I noticed that about tourists as well.
Yeah.
Once they come back. A lot of them come back every year, I've met so many that that's what they do now,
Yeah.
They just, every summer, here they are. A lot of return visitors.
Samuel, for yourself, do you have a special story or something that's tied to this battlefield now that you've been here and you've been involved in that role that you can relay to us?
I'm always really moved by cemeteries. So when I was here, I went off for a few hours and just kind of walked around the cemetery here. And I think it's connected to why people come back is the human experience and knowing what the humans that were in this specific place went through. It's hard not to be moved by that and to have a reverence for it. And so I love exploring, where people are laid to rest and looking at the ages is always a thing. The plaque, there's so many plaques, you never get around them all in Gettysburg, but it is really fascinating. But for me, it's, so that was a really great day when I just walked and walked and walked for hours. And it was really, I found it very moving. I also, when I walked, obviously there's so many monuments on the battlefield and so spread out, which is why there's a driving tour, but I was on my feet, so I was just walking through some of them. And I looked at it was the vastness of that landscape was something I hadn't quite comprehended. I had the same experience, a similar experience when I went to Normandy. Yeah. On the beaches, like until you stand on that beach and you see the depth and where the battlements, you can't get, your brain doesn't comprehend really how brutal that must have been and how exposed you were, and if you made it through that, like how that must affect you for the rest of your life, how so it's hard not to go to those places and physically stand where those people stood and not be moved by it. So I think Gettysburg, with such a rich history like that, this keeps people coming back. I'm here with my wife, and we've been talking about coming back with our kids very soon because it's like, what a better way to teach history, right, than to for sure walk where other humans have walked.
Well, I've met so many people, or historians or teachers, and I ask them, what got you interested? And they've said, well, my parents took me here as a kid, and we did the battlefield tours, and I hooked into it, and
it's amazing.
Yeah.
It really is.
And this town, more than any other, you can go to Antietam, it's nice to walk around for a few minutes, but Gettysburg is different. It has such, I don't know, I don't get the same feeling walking in. I know how many people died at Antietam, and it was horrific. But it feels different here. I don't know why.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Did you have another?
You said something earlier today. It's just a comment I'd like to make. When I was watching you earlier talking about turn and all that, you mentioned being in these places of power, and now that you say you're a new American, essentially. The comment you made about being in these places and understanding and figuring out that this was earned. To me, that was a very powerful and moving moment there. And I think that sometimes that's lost on a lot of people.
So much.
And to hear you say that is pretty inspiring.
Yeah, I think when you understand what it cost to have something, it changes how you value it. So that's where that came from. Yeah, I'm glad that resonated. Yeah.
I love
Did
that
with
too.
me as well. Yeah.
Hello, it's Spencer of Readout Productions, and I find myself here at the Angle, one of the most iconic locations on the Gettysburg battlefield. And I'm gonna be honest, Gettysburg, the whole battlefield, the town, is all my favorite place. I don't have one spot, but I find myself every time I visit here, I'm always passing the copse of trees, I'm always passing the Angle, Armistead's Wounded Monument. So every trip I come out here, it always ends here. I think this kind of shows you why Gettysburg's not just important to myself, but to everybody. At least for me, I remember 5 years old I had to have been. My parents brought me out here. They didn't know if I was gonna enjoy the trip or not. They were trying to make up for a honeymoon that failed due to a hurricane. So they came a few years later after I was born, they brought me along for the ride, and they're like, well, how is young Spencer gonna be entertained? Something bit me, the history bug bit me, and ever since then, Gettysburg always drew me back. This is where I see my main interest in history beginning. And it's because it's a classroom, when you really think about it. The military park, I mean, today. This was preserved for Americans like myself, past Americans before me, and future Americans, and not even just Americans really. Anybody could come here and learn about the decisions that succeeded and failed that were made on these grounds over 160 years ago. And be it because it's strategically located near several northern cities, or be it the fact that it is strategically located in the middle of a massive crossroads, there's something that funnels everybody in 1863 and in 2026 right here to Gettysburg. So, this is one of the best places to learn about our past, and not just the American Civil War. That's the main draw. But I find more and more when I come here, I'm learning stuff from after the Civil War, like how this military park was used as training grounds. World War I, Camp Colt, basically is right behind us over here. Young guys in Irish training with, as I say, tanks, but a tank. In 1921, the Marine Corps, in a bid for try to save funding for them, they had a massive maneuver out here. Thousands of Marines reenacted Pickett's charge. And not to my own horn, that's one of my favorite videos I got to produce out here, talking about the Gettysburg Military Park through the Marine Corps perspective in 1921. But we can go back even before the battle, and you go back to the time of the Revolution. The Dobbin House was from 1776. You're not going to just find a building that's exactly 250 years ago today. That's incredible in itself. But this was the frontier. A lot of people would settle out here before, during, and especially after the American Revolution. In some ways, how they were rewarded was through land grants. And those land grants for their services is the western frontier, Adams County, Pennsylvania, and even beyond that. So for some reason, be it the actual geographic location or something divine, I don't know for certain on that, there's something that funnels everybody, including myself, here to Gettysburg and keeps us coming and coming.
All right, we just arrived at the Gettysburg Film Festival kickoff here. We're gonna head inside and watch some program that Gary Edelman has for everybody. and it's kind of like an hors d'oeuvre section here at the Adams County Historical Society for the folks that are going to be attending this week for the film festival. So excited to get it kicked off and see what else we can see. So let's introduce your channel here.
Hi, it's Jen of Walk with History. I'm here with History with Waffles. Go Navy. And we both make history content, but we're here at Gettysburg. And my favorite place at Gettysburg is Little Round Top. And it's because of Strong Vincent. And I try to champion Strong Vincent everywhere I go because everyone knows Chamberlain and everyone knows the bayonet charge, but they don't know the person who put Chamberlain there. And that was Strong Vincent. And Strong Vincent was a lawyer from Erie, Pennsylvania, who had a brigade and rode up to Little Round Top and saw no one was there defending it. And he took his men and put them there, including Chamberlain, and told them all to stand their ground. He did it without direct orders. He went out and stood out in front of everybody and told them, don't give him an inch, and then he was shot. And he ends up dying 3 days later. But he is made a brigadier general by Lincoln before his death. And I want more people to know about Strong Vincent, because if you know Chamberlain, you should know Vincent.
Yeah, and you're a military veteran yourself.
Yes.
Did you use any of the lessons from Strong Vincent in your leadership?
So that's why I like him so much, because as an officer, he's not a junior officer, he's a colonel, but he's taking this initiative upon himself without direct orders, and that is a big deal at that. When you have a whole brigade of men, he's doing it because he sees the need, and he knows he can see the rebels coming, and he sees Little Round Top as vulnerable, but if it doesn't work, it's the end of your career. And so I give him a lot of credit for doing that. He was willing to just take the initiative and do that, and that's what a lot of officers have to do sometimes, especially in war. And so I just think more people need to know about him. Plus, he has a super cool name.
That's right. All right, thanks for answering the question.
Thank you.
I'm out here in Gettysburg this morning, waiting on Wayne Motts over here at the National Cemetery. The reason why we're waiting on him is we're going to have him be a part of this opinion piece that we're working on right now too, which is basically asking these guys that are so important and gals to the story of the American Civil War and other historical events, why they think Gettysburg is just so important to people, what their personal opinions are, and if they have a story themselves that ties here to Gettysburg. Wayne actually chose the cemetery as his favorite place on this battlefield. A lot of people shy away from cemeteries because of, you know, the connotation, the association with death and things like that. So we're going to see why exactly it is Wayne chose this place as his favorite place, and kind of get into the mind of Wayne Motts, if you will, here in Gettysburg. So we have Wayne Motts here at his favorite place in Gettysburg National Military Park. Wayne, why do you think Gettysburg is such a special and unique place, not only to yourself, but to other people that come here constantly?
Well, for me, I think it's two different questions. So thank you. I'm honored to be with you, and I appreciate this time and opportunity to be at my favorite place on the Gettysburg battlefield, right outside the National Cemetery here at Gettysburg. So to me, it's really special because my father brought me here as a kid. So I grew up near Columbus, Ohio, and Gettysburg was not only one of the closest Civil War battles, it also was one of the biggest. So we would come here on a regular basis, and I just got really addicted might not be the right word, but I got really attached to it, and I'd love to come and visit here. So I spent all my early years as a child on the Gettysburg battlefield. So for me, it's this personal connection to my father bringing me here to the battlefield. I think for a lot of other people, it's because it's the most visited, I guess, well, it's not actually the most visited National Military Park, but it's certainly one of the most visited. It's the most well marked, I would say, and people relate to that. When the soldiers decided that they wanted to place monuments here after the Civil War, a lot of times they put them here, especially if you were in the Union service in the Civil War. And also because Lincoln gave a Gettysburg Address here. Lincoln didn't go anywhere else, give a talk that every young child memorizes and has terrific impact on all of us today. And that place was here at Gettysburg. And that, I think, separates Gettysburg from all the rest of these Civil War battles.
Is there a particular story, whether it be historically or even personally, that ties you to this battlefield that stands out the most in your mind?
Well, I think most people would think that I love human interest stories, first of all. I'm a battlefield guide. I've been a battlefield guide 38 years. And the guides knew from the beginning, if you want to get people interested in the Civil War, you tell a story.
Right.
So I love all stories. I'm an equal opportunity employer for all stories in the Civil War. Lewis Armistead, I'm probably most well known for, as a Confederate general who died here in Pickett's charge. His story about his wounding, his friend Winfield Scott Hancock, what happened to him. I love that story. As an Ohioan, one of my favorite stories is the great-grandfather, President Richard Milhouse Nixon, who was mortally wounded here in the Battle of Gettysburg. George Nixon, and he was a private in the 73rd Ohio Volunteer Infantry Regiment. He was mortally wounded. He died at George Spangler Farm Hospital here, the 11th Union Army Corps Hospital, and he's actually buried in the Ohio plot right over here behind me.
Okay.
So it's one of my favorite stories because it connects a personality that most people know with today. So that would be, I think, would rank high in my personal stories.
Very cool.
There were many times I had people on tour that were foreign tourists that came from all over the world come visit Gettysburg many times here, and they didn't know there was a battle. They knew Lincoln was here to give the Gettysburg Address, but they didn't understand, why he was here. And so then they found out, oh, there's a battle here. So once again, I think I'm going to put Lincoln on that. That separates Gettysburg from a lot of other battles in the Civil War. And also, as I mentioned earlier, the monumentation. So if you're a Confederate soldier, this is a battle you lost. It's a battle that's in the North.
Yeah.
So after the Civil War, you're looking at trying to monument and highlight the sacrifices of your troops elsewhere. Not that you didn't want to do it here, but you're actually doing that in a lot of other places. But if you're a Union soldier, this is a place that is going to have monuments the veterans are going to come back to. They're on many fields in the Civil War, but yet they choose Gettysburg as a place to put their monument. They could have chosen other places.
Yeah.
And some did, but not to the degree that we have here. So I think, once again, the monumentation, the memorialization period from the veterans, it was special to them.
Yeah.
And they came back and made sure they wanted everybody to know that it was a special place like it is today.
100%. Well, Wayne, I thank you for coming out here today and answering those questions and telling us about your favorite place here in Gettysburg.
Well, on behalf of myself and the National Civil War Museum, where I'm honored to be the Chief Executive Officer, thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
History with Waffles. Okay. I love American history. And so I'm very lucky in that I get paid to do something that I love. And, I'm here wearing jeans today. I got a tie on, but to go out and spend a day doing a service project like that, it's personally meaningful too. We save land. We've saved over 61,000 acres of battlefield land all across the country, more than 160 battlefields in 25 states. Whenever I can, this is just a personal quirk of mine, if there's a national cemetery or other cemetery nearby, I try to take a few minutes, and it's hokey, I understand that, but it's personally meaningful to me. I walk the rows of that cemetery, and sometimes I'll even say out loud, we're doing this so that what you did here can never be forgotten. And it is personally meaningful to me. I had ancestors who fought in the war, and it's just so important to me that this history can never be forgotten. That's why we do what we do at the American Battlefield Trust. I had a great-great-grandfather who was in the 57th Virginia Regiment. That's Armistead's brigade and Pickett's division, so you know where he was on the afternoon of July 3rd, 1863. He survived, remarkably. He was a second lieutenant, so just barely an officer, but he survived that day, whereas the regiment basically ceased to exist after that afternoon in Pickett's charge. some of the guys were sent off to other regiments. He was actually, according to his pension records, sent home on duty arresting deserters, it said. And I always thought, gosh, that was a hard duty. That was a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
And then one day I was here on July 3rd, when I try and do it whenever I can. I come up and I do the walk across the field at 3:15 in the afternoon. And I thought, well, maybe it wasn't so hard if he had been on that field and he watched all of the other people from his locality. This is Southside Virginia, where the regiment came from. Maybe if he saw his friends and his cousins and other people in the community all being killed, perhaps he was highly motivated to find deserters and get them back into the ranks. So yeah, very personal to me.
So, bringing something like the Revolutionary War here to Gettysburg, everybody associates Gettysburg with the American Civil War, the struggle that took place here in July of 1863. So, why Gettysburg? Why are we bringing it here?
Yeah, why not? Right? I mean, I think it's a really interesting thing, and there is stuff happening here during the period of the American Revolution. We're not a borough until 1786, of course, but there's certainly a crossroads. There are several taverns here. This is a main thoroughfare to the west. Gettysburg and the road networks moving through it are part of roadways to Baltimore. They're part of a network that leads out to the Shenandoah Valley. I mean, we've got a door leading us down to Winchester in the 1750s here. So I think it's a real opportunity to shine a light on what's happening here in Gettysburg in the 18th century, and there's actually quite a bit. But it's also interesting to connect the threads. When you look at the people who struggled through the American Civil War, and if you think about our experience, you know, for myself, I'm in my mid-40s, so as part of my childhood, World War II veterans and the aftermath of World War II was a part of my life, was a fabric of my community. If you were to live in the 1840s or 1850s, you're living in the midst of those Revolutionary War veterans. It's the same sort of thing. The gap is very equitable between our life experience with World War II and their life experience with the Revolution. And if you look at the founding documents of the Confederacy, or even Lincoln's first inaugural speech, you're going to see immediate callbacks to the American Revolution. Both sides in that war see themselves in many instances, or at least portray themselves, whether or not it's accurate, and that's a whole different story, right? But they at least see themselves as successors to the revolutionary flame. So I think it really is an interesting place, and Gettysburg is the catch-all. It draws people in, right? It's for most people their first exposure to the American Civil War, and our hope is they'll learn a lot more about the American Civil War by coming here and being fascinated by this place. But I think Gettysburg is a good springboard, examining the American Civil War, but then looking back. How do the people who fight through that time period view the American Revolution? How do they see themselves to its successors and heirs too? So for me, because of what's happening here on the local level in the 18th century and those broader connections, it's an absolutely perfect place.
If you had to pick a place outside these doors on Gettysburg, this is the most special place, the most important place to you, something that maybe even has a personal story tied to it, where would that place be and what's that story?
Here in Gettysburg itself. It's a really good question. Oh boy, let me think about that for a minute. It's 40-some years of coming here. It would have to be the angle.
Okay.
Because I have an ancestor who was there. And this place has been fascinating to me just as long as Valley Forge has. The first time I came here, I was probably 6 or 7, and my dad's parents would always take me on a day trip. Grew up in the Philadelphia region. So history day trip, go wherever you want. And they made the mistake of taking me to Valley Forge when I was 6 or 7, and that became the day trip every year after that.
Yeah.
And one year, my grandfather was standing with me at the angle. He's still alive. He's in his mid-90s now. He's a Korean War veteran. And he said, hey, I was talking to my cousin Ruth Ella, and we found out that we have an ancestor who was here in the 72nd Pennsylvania.
Wow.
So going there is really important and special for me because I can think about the context of what that unit did, at least, because I don't have a pension application for him or a lot of information on what he did, but I know he was here. So I can think about what the 72nd did, I can think about the context of their service during the Gettysburg campaign, but there's the duality of importance because there's the moment that generations shared on a battlefield together, looking back and getting that revelation in the place where it actually happened is pretty wild. At least for me.
That's pretty cool. It's a great story.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you doing this interview with me. It's been very enlightening.
Thank you, Charlie.
And a pleasure to be able to interview you. And I can't wait to see you out there on the field.
You too, sir. Take care.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
This is Dr. Lucas Wilder from the YouTube channel History Gone Wilder, and I was asked, what is special to me about the Battle of Gettysburg? The Battle of Gettysburg and the battlefield itself is really a living memorial to sacrifice and the concept of union in the 19th century. It's also a defining moment in many of those leaders' lives. Many of these Civil War generals, you only know about what they did at Gettysburg. It came to define them, so much so that Pickett, Longstreet, Ewell, Early, Hancock, Meade, Gibbon, these men are known because of their role in this one battle. For the general public, that's all they know. For people who love the Civil War, they know about many facets of their life. But for the general audience, Gettysburg is their defining moment. And so that's what makes it special to me, is because it does have so many of these defining moments in these men's lives. The moment from the Battle of Gettysburg that sticks out to me the most happens on the third day. Ambrose Wright is brigade commander in Richard Anderson's division of A.P. Hill's Corps. In the attacks that happened on July 2nd, he made it to Cemetery Ridge, roughly the same place that George Pickett's division was aiming toward. He was in a talk with Edward Poor Alexander, and they were discussing what was the possibility of success with the upcoming attack. And Ambrose Wright says, it's not the problem of getting there, it's the problem of holding it. That sticks out to me as a really defining moment, and one that I always recall when I think of Gettysburg or I go there. And I'd love to know where that conversation took place.
July 2nd of 1863, the Union Army under General George Gordon Meade, the newly appointed officer in charge of the entire army here, forms a defensive line in the shape of a fishhook. And that line stops right here, somewhere on these ridge lines, a little round top. Now there's markings off in the distance over there for the 20th Maine and the positions that they held, but that's the extreme flank. If this line fails to hold, not only do they get swept from these ridges, it is possible that the entire Union Army is defeated here at Gettysburg. Not only are the Army, but the cause for which they stand. A defeat here could be disastrous on a national stage. We have such a busy schedule out here at Gettysburg this time around for the festival that I thought I would put in a small couple of videos here or there, so that way we can highlight a soldier or two and have something ready for this weekend. Because quite frankly, there's not a lot of time for editing while you're out here at Gettysburg for the film festival. So we're going to push off from here now, and we're going to head over and do some interviews. We have Tom McMillan coming up. We also have Kenneth Gavin, who is a interpreter and a living historian who's in charge of the Revolutionary War camps that are out here. And we have a few other things in store out here in Gettysburg to tell the story of the perspective of those people who tell the story of not just Gettysburg, but other types of history. And we're going to cover the film festival as well. Until next time, this is History with Waffles.
Thank you.